Welcome back to another episode of Nerds of the Rounds, guys. Your host, Sebastian.
It's your boy, Law.
And your boy, Tone, from across the hall.
And we're going to be talking about Mando episode 5 today. But before we get into the first episode, quick announcements. So first announcement is that don't forget to tune into new episodes every Friday of Nerds Around. This week, we're actually going to be talking to the crew behind Geeks Out Snug Harbor. Now Geeks Out Staten Island. Also, too, on Saturdays, don't forget to tune in to the Medusa's podcast, the Medusa's Cascade podcast. Every Saturday, new episodes. Episode 5 just dropped this weekend. Make sure you guys tune in, follow, like, subscribe. Let us know what you guys have been thinking about the D&D podcast that has been put out by Imbion. Finally, also check out the new series by Law that was just lit. TAOS, go ahead, Law. And tell us about TAOS by Law, please.
Yo, Toad's face.
Bro, I am.
So
it is live. It is
new
and I am tired.
If you're talking about the podcast, new old podcast, season 2 finally wrapped up with the Nerds of the Round. The last 2 episodes of season 2 dropped not this past Sunday, the Sunday prior. And it's already been getting lots of listens, and people seem to have been enjoying it. I am working on a new guest list for season 3, which should start recording sometime in 2021. Like, I'm thinking end of January. So be on the lookout for that. And I am now Twitch streaming every Monday and Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m., about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be on the lookout for that. And I will drop in some random fun, I'm gonna just pop in a stream on Sunday or Saturday, so be on the lookout for my surprise streams.
There you go. Okay, congratulations on the launch of the Twitch.
He's all over the world.
Yo, looking at my schedule, I'm tired looking at it. All my nights are just recording, more recording, and recording.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to keep our guests in the background for too long in the waiting room. Again, you're going to get to see our guests also in this episode, is in this Friday's episode where we talk to Geeks Out Snug Harbor. Yeah, I am off.
Geeks Out Staten Island. Oh my goodness, you are just all over the place, my man.
So let's.
You wanna transfer
coffee?
You wanna transfer
coffee?
Duties today? What's going on?
It's all good. Come on.
It's Thanksgiving weekend. What's up, Cheyenne?
There we go. See, look,
Cheyenne's dying right now.
She's just laughing.
Listen. We're still all stuck on that Thanksgiving turkey. That's it. Still got the itis for the. So, we're eating 50 different leftovers of Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah,
I'm so
ham in the fridge. I still have ham. We got a 15-pound ham from Walmart, and there's only 4 of us. And out of the 4 of us, only 2 of us ate ham. So
I think we still have ham too. Oh man, I bought a burrito because I just couldn't. I started hissing at the Thanksgiving leftovers. I opened the fridge. I just said, and then just closed.
That's a certain point. After day 4 or 5, you're just yo, I can't do this anymore.
I don't know, man. I can keep eating arroz con gandules and ham all the time. So
that's valid.
And Jackie makes this amazing fucking sweet potato casserole. That's
Stop it.
Before we get into the food, because you're
that's one of my favorite things from last year, and I'm still sad. I'm so sad.
Tony, we need you to give our guests the warning for tonight's episode of recap of Mandalorian episode 5.
Yes. We are discussing chapter 13, The Jedi, and all spoilers are allowed, aka Tony Stark has died.
There you go. So you've been warned.
I want to hear
let's let the savagery begin. So let's open up with the fact that, oh my God, she commanded the screen when we opened up in that scene. How did you guys feel about Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka Tano?
Let me first start by saying the costume department.
Yes.
I was so it wasn't that I didn't believe that the costume department couldn't do it, but it was one of those things where I was there's got to be a lot of detail, attention to detail on her character, because there's so many moving parts and ways that she moves, how her character is designed, how things flow. I was it has to work well. And oh man, it was so good. so good. Because you have moments like, and I've seen it, across, multiple like other, franchises and series where, me and my buddies would watch and be like, why did they mess up this detail? Like, like you could have just asked cosplayers to do it, and that's usually consensus. Like, you guys could have asked us, like we would have did a better job. They really looked at this and was like, we're not going to let you down, and I was so here for it.
Yeah, just giving it up to Dave Filoni, who's just like so into making sure all the Star Wars stuff is accurate and making sure that the character of Ahsoka Tano was done perfectly, and the makeup, it was just perfect. But there was actually something that happened. So I know we've always been talking about how the Mandalorian is its own thing, and there's no Skywalkers, and there's no Force, and there's no lightsabers. But like having that lightsaber moment, in I don't know 13, where like the past 12 episodes we haven't had any sort of lightsaber action. It was like one of those things where it was like, this felt good. It felt like a treat at the end, kind of like in Rogue One when Darth Vader comes out and just fucking goes ham, and you're just like like clutching the pearls, because I remember I clutched the pearls in the theater when I saw that scene. So when she comes out with the two white lightsabers and just doing her thing, it was just like the show needed it. It was good. I know it's not going to take over the show, but it was just nice. Nice to have.
That was the big thing.
Yeah,
like, they didn't allow it to like fully encapsulate the entire show and take away from it still being the Mando.
Cheyenne, what was your take when you saw her take and command the screen right there in the very beginning of this episode?
So first off, I've been following Rosario Dawson for a while, and the fact that she kept saying, "Make me Ahsoka Tano. I want to be Ahsoka when the time comes." And I said, you know what? If she's commanding it, and her being as great of an actress as she is, it's like, I need to see how this is going to look. And boy, oh boy, I was internally squealing, especially because you have her literally stealthing and just sneaking up on people in the fog and just going like that on and
that was
and sneaking up with her.
Yes.
Honestly, so
it was vanished.
So good.
Vanished.
And to talk about like with tone as far as Darth Vader appearing in Rogue One, honestly, let's just say 5-year-old me wanted to be Darth Vader for Halloween and not a princess. So me seeing that in Rogue One, I was just like, I was that weirdo just doing like.
I was the same way.
You weren't the weirdo. You were
the same way. I remember I went into my boys were like, "Yo, wait to the end." I was like, "What do you mean? Like the credits?" They were like, "Just wait to the end." And I'm watching it with my friend, and he just pops up, and I just go like, I'm like just going nuts. I couldn't contain myself. And then I told my wife about it, and she's like, "You just have like these moments, like these nerdgasm moments." I'm like, I do. They're very intense, and only a few people can understand what they are, and that was one of them.
So I understand this moment perfectly more now, because like as you're describing, I'm like, oh, that's what I must have looked like when we watched the My Hero movie.
Yes,
and the whole time, Tone is like, wait for it. And I'm like, now, Tone? And he's like, no, wait for it. And I'm like, now, Tone? And he's like, nah, like you'll know it when you see it. I'm like,
you'll just know.
And I was like, oh shit. Like, yo, the hype was out of this world.
Yeah. So before we dive into more in this episode, I want to give a shout out to the fact that we had Diane Lee and Sonato as Morgan Elsbeth. She is also the goddaughter of Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
We have Michael Biehn of Terminator and Aliens fame.
Let's not excuse the fact that she's also the mom of oh man, he was Rocky in the last Three Ninjas movie. He was was Rocky in the last Three Ninjas movie, and he was the young Red Turbo Ranger, if I'm not mistaken.
But I think it was under the radar. Like, a lot of people didn't know that she was Bruce Lee's goddaughter. Mm-hmm. She's also a well-known stunt actress. Plus, also, too, big shout out to Dave Filoni directing this episode. He's known for directing Clone Wars, Resistance, Rebels. But he also directed 9 episodes of Avatar, which I wanted to lead into. I got this feeling that everything was okay in Ba Sing Se when I was watching this episode. It was a big shout out for that. But it shows, again, that how do you guys feel with every planet that we've gotten to see, all the environments that have been designed. We've been through a snow environment, a desert environment. Now we had this type of deadwood type of forest environment. How did you guys feel about this environment, and how did you feel it played into Ahsoka Tano actually just taking people out in the forest? So, how was it for you guys?
Perfect,
dude. It was everything.
Yeah,
like
just seeing the diversity of environments. I think the Mandalorian has been doing it so well, and just playing it up. Just there's so many planets in the Outer Rim and the regular systems that we just don't get to see, and we just get to read about. And so just having just like a landscape here or there is fun, because the only swamp that we really can recognize is Dagobah. So now we have a different place. That's kind of like a swampland, wasteland sort of type of thing. And then I like that Ahsoka was kind of using her environment to take down her enemies, which is very like non-Jedi-esque, and which I liked. I like that she's going against the grain. And I think after she fought Anakin as Darth Vader and Rebels and all that other stuff, she kind of becomes jaded and all that other jazz. So like just seeing her as a different type of Jedi or Jedi warrior, really kind of solidified that. And I like seeing it, because they're kind of taking up with the times. They're not just like this grand order. Yes, I heard about the Samurai film callbacks.
You were saying that. That is our buddy Sean Acevedo. Make sure you check him out on G is for Geek.
Yeah, I will say, like, the scene when Ahsoka is fighting the magistrate, I wasn't thinking old Japanese movies. I immediately thought of Kill Bill, of the bride versus Oren Ishii, and I was like, yo, this gives me such vibes of that scene.
How'd you feel about that, Cheyenne? Gotta get you in.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because my dad was saying that one of his friends said that they don't watch Star Wars, but they would watch The Mandalorian because it reminded them of a Western. So kind of seeing Michael Dean and Mando having that standoff was kind of like that. I guess I got to see what they meant by the Western moment, but back to Ahsoka and the magistrate, that screamed that scene where the bride and Oren were about to fight in that garden. And it's crazy because it was in like this garden, serene kind of area where they are fighting. So that feel that I got from her, and especially because we got to see Ahsoka in the Clone Wars and seeing her grow up until that point, it's like seeing that contrast in the way how she handles a battle. It's the whole energy and the vibe is completely different, which I actually enjoyed.
Law, I need you to weigh in, brother. With there.
So, all right. Look at every fight that we've seen so far, and also take into context the stylized way like they make the differences of fighting styles between each race of people, or each like discipline, let's say. So we have Mandos who fight very almost like a frontline fighter. Like they're very bounty hunters. They have tools, weapons, like the whole kit. They are the kit, whereas a Jedi is them, their swords, their wit, and like the Force. Two completely different styles. Then you have like the enemies that they've fought, and you've had a whole like array of like what the enemies look like. So this whole like seeing Mando with Ahsoka like together fighting, I was here for it. I was so here for it, because it's such a dope like complementary style, and you don't even realize it until you see it. You know what I mean? Where you're looking at them, how they fight, and it's one of those things where you're like, this is the fight we would have got had we gotten a longer Boba fight in the original trilogy.
Oh yeah,
like we would have probably gotten like this level of like choreography.
Yeah.
If we, and it's something where we're like, oh, that's crazy, because when you look at a Mando, you see like a very clunky, not very quick on their feet and quick to move. Everything is a precise movement, but it's not a quick and fluid movement. Whereas you see, I'll put it in D&D terms, it is a fighter versus a monk.
Well, I want to touch up on something.
Good.
I want to touch up on something because someone said that the lightsabers. How did you? I have a theory about the white lightsabers and her saying that she's no longer a Jedi, right? And this is just a theory of something about reading back a while back ago. Was that, do you think that this is the beginning of them trying to introduce the gray Jedi, who is like, not a Sith but not a Jedi, that's kind of in the middle?
Want that so badly. Understand?
Yeah.
I want it so badly, but I do have to research because if I'm not mistaken, in the later arcs of Rebels, her lightsabers were white as well. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they are. They're
so
white.
Did she start off with white lightsabers?
No,
right?
she started off with either like the blue or green, still dual wielding lightsabers.
Right,
and
but
even
then
her holding is actually different in comparison to Clone Wars. Like her fighting style actually changed because with the way how she would actually hold the lightsabers would be in the opposite of gripping, not how it's more straightforward. Hers was more, the lightsabers were towards the back. So yeah,
it looked like they paid attention to those details because when she was fighting, it almost looked like she kept a lot of the fundamentals of her fighting style and her skill and like what she learned as a Jedi, but she like kind of had to like have that resolve to like understand that like it's not what it used to be, and she started like slowly giving up some of those things to kind of find her own way and her own path. And I was like, oh, because I've only seen enough of like clips from Rebels and clips from certain things to get a sense that like even just on screen, like had I had no other context other than the Mando, like I would get the sense that she's a character that when you look at other Jedis and how they fight, that style, even Anakin being her mentor makes sense of how her fighting style is, but then seeing Anakin turn to Darth Vader, why she would try to distance herself from that style, and try to find more of a way that suits her.
Well, I want to get into the Anakin thing about her, but I want to touch up on this with Tone because being the dad of the group, how did you feel about the dad moments, Tone? Let's look at these dad moments. Are we gonna do
dad moments every time?
Listen,
before we get into dad moments, like, does anyone else get the sense of gray Jedi? Because I got that almost throughout the entire episode. But I'm not sure if they're really going to do it. Like, if they do it, they're going to really have to double down. And I think if they did it, Ahsoka would be the perfect candidate for it.
I think, I wouldn't say like full on gray, like she's like considered a neutral Jedi or anything. Cause that, that kind of puts a picture that you're kind of like in the middle and you're like a true neutral. And I don't think she's like a true neutral.
Right.
I would say though that the idea of starting or restarting the Jedi Order she's past that. Like even you get that from the dialogue that she said where she told Mando to take him to the different temple because she's over that now. And she's kind of just taking care of herself, taking care of the people that she can take care of, and pretty much trying to get to, to Thrawn, which we find out at the end of that episode.
Oh, damn. You gave the big spoiler away.
Tony Stark died. So, we're here. So I would say like, versus like from the expanded universe, like the quintessential gray Jedi was always was like Kyle Katarn from the Jedi Knight series, who reluctantly came and became a Jedi and went to Luke's academy and all this other stuff. But he was like textbook gray Jedi, where I don't think Ahsoka's really kind of going that line. I think it's just like she's just not part of the order, the order. Like she's not. That's not her journey. I think Luke kind of took that journey and he failed at it because of what happened with Ben. But I think it kind of fell onto Luke to kind of revamp the Jedi Order. And at this point, Luke has been, Luke is there. Luke is technically there, and Darth Vader has been, defeated and stuff. So, but yeah.
Oh, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm just listening, just trying to take it in because the feeling that I got from Ahsoka was more, she's definitely not neutral, because if she were more of a neutral, there would have been certain aspects of her that I guess would have been more portrayed, if that makes sense. So with just knowing what happened to her, especially towards the last season of the Clone Wars, she had to leave, basically, because it was either she stays And she's going to have to deal with now Anakin, who's gone to the dark side, the fact that the Jedi Order was going after her. So it's kind of like she basically got to see the thing that she was kind of raised and indoctrinated in practically betray her for the most part. So you can think about it even on a philosophical or religious aspect. The thing that kind of nurtured you was the thing that ends up biting you on, like, kind of like stabbing you in the back, and you start to lose that faith. So even with the dialogue, you kind of see it's just like, no, I can't teach this child. So you can kind of feel that she still has some type of resentment, anger, and some type of regret, especially with what happened to Anakin. So with her talking about Grogu being, like him being with you, like, he sees you as a father figure, but it doesn't help that he still feels fearful. He has anger in him. So that kind of hints that there's a possibility with him going to, let's just say, the Jedi Temple. What would that look like? Because now if you have Yoda on these pillars, where this is a place where this is a Jedi Order, what used to be the Jedi Order, he might easily be susceptible to either side, either the Jedi side or the dark side, because the influence is just about everywhere. And you already see what happens when you have that anger or you have that fear, what that does to people with the Force.
Yeah.
Yes, yep, Jedi PTSD.
I mean, to me, it shows that when she, it showed a callback for me with Anakin Skywalker and her, because when she looked at the relationship between the Baby Yoda and Mando, she was like, yeah, he knows fear and he has an attachment to you. It kind of was a callback for me to think about Anakin and Padme's relationship, because they were like, they kept telling Anakin, you have to get rid of your attachments, and he refused to, and that was part of his reason for taking on the dark side. But I really want to get into these 3 dad moments that I saw, because I really wanted to get away in on this tone. I really do. Please. I love these moments because it was the first one when they're in the ship, when Mando's coming to land, and then you see the little ball on the dashboard, and he's looking, he's like, no. And he's like, dude, I told you no, go sit in the back. And then he comes out the ship, and then he has the ball. He's like, dude, I told you no. And then when he was happy when he took the ball, it was like a happy dad. Like, yeah, that's it. That's right. How do you feel about those moments?
I mean, I love it. It's definitely true. Like, the reluctancy of taking something away or not listening, but then having it in your back pocket and realizing, all right, this is the currency of the day. So if I need him to do anything, this is what I'm going to use. So like, I knew the minute the rock wasn't working, he's going to go get the, essentially the shifter handle. Cause that's what I keep thinking. It looks like a shifter in a car. And then, I really liked when he was like really like all amped up, like, yeah, let's go. Like, like, let's go sport. Like, good job, champ. Great job, buddy. Like, all those like cheesy lines. But I mean, it wasn't like, and I think I've now said this 3 episodes in a row at this point. My favorite one is him eating the eggs and him telling him, yo, like, what did I tell you? Like, to me, that's just quintessential what you're dealing with on a daily basis versus like the really high and fun moments. Like, obviously those are there and those are great and you get those levels, but it's usually a number of, I told you not to do something. But yeah.
We got a question here.
Are we going to talk about this kid's name? Like,
we are, but let's save that for after this one, because we got a question from the crowd. Do you think they will introduce the Inquisitors like the future Knights of Ren? What do you guys think?
That was something else I also considered. I forgot when it came up in conversation, but it was something where I was like, yo, like, would this lead to the Knights of Ren? Even though we had a bad conclusion for them, this would be a good origin for them, given that this takes place with enough time for that like seed to be planted, Yeah.
I always find weird, and I think, I think the new Star Wars movies kind of just did this to themselves, is that like in between the movies, you've got all these users of lightsabers and the Force, and then you get back to the main timeline, and then they're all like gone. Like Kylo Ren is the only one with a lightsaber in the new movies. So like we've got we've got these movies in between and trying to figure out like what happened. Like I like the Inquisitors. I like that they added the Inquisitors in Rebels and maybe seeing them kind of like be fleshed out and seeing them. And then they're in the game, Fallen Order that came out this year. But then like what happens after that? Like what happened to all these users, these lightsaber users, these learned, what happened to them, and why is it that the First Order only has Kylo Ren? And I think just Star Wars in general kind of just backs itself into that corner a couple times when we fleshed out these stories in between the movies, and it's kind of like, okay, but what about all these other folks? I think the Knights of the Ren are just a bit of bit of leftovers from that, because I'd love to learn more about them, but they didn't really, unfortunately, they didn't do much with them until like the last movie, and then even then they were just red shirts.
Yeah, they were just there, and honestly, I was actually looking forward to seeing the Knights of Ren the most, because of the fact that Kylo Ren being part of the Knights of Ren, only for them to just walk in, like basically look like a clique, walking around looking so badass, and I'm just like, were you gonna do something or not? And then for it to be just used in that one moment with Kylo Ren, I was just like, are you kidding me? This is all you're gonna do with them? There's so much that they could have done, and I guess and part of me was disappointed in that, especially because I wanted to know more. Because for me, there's only so much I know about the Knights of Ren. So for me, like I thought that would have been a pretty good opportunity, especially if you're going to delve into Kylo Ren being one of the knights. What does that look like with him kind of shifting from being, Luke's student to entering that dark side in that kind of environment? But also, yes, I do wish that they actually mentioned the Inquisitors, like what happened to them, because you see them in Rebels and you kind of see how some of them were getting taken out, being betrayed, being disposed of. But you already know that the dark side doesn't just have a small handful of Inquisitors, especially when you have Palpatine running the show in the background. There has to be something else going on. So it's like the franchise somehow self-sabotages themselves when they introduce these characters. They bring them up, they show like this cool skill set, this complex, thought process. You have that loyalty to their Sith Lord, but then at the same time, you have their own agendas. So it makes you wonder what happens, because it can't just be Kylo. Like with the Jedis, you knew that there were some left. You knew that some of them were in hiding. Eventually, they all died, but what happened? And that's kind of like that. Why is it always that what happened question that keeps popping up with these renditions or adaptations for this franchise? And this is a continuity, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like we know we're eventually going to get books that take place after Episode 9. Mm-hmm. And so like, what's going to happen? And, whenever if they decide to do, I don't think they're going to do 10, 11, and 12, but if they decide to do stuff in the future, like what's going to happen? And like, how are they going to bring this up? Because now it's kind of fallen into Rey to kind of carry on this legacy. And then where's everyone? Are we going to bring in like Broom Force Kid from the second book, from the second movie? And I'm not even trying to like be a dick about it, because I do rag on that movie all the time. But like, they essentially showed a random person having the Force because the Force will find a way. Right. And then like, what does that mean? After Episode 9. But I think we're moving past the 45 minutes of Mando.
Let's go into this, like you mentioned it earlier. We want to talk about his name, so let's talk about Baby Yoda's name, and also let's talk about the fact that he survived Anakin Skywalker's babysitting.
Let's just talk about how the fact that Grogu will not be a thing and Baby Yoda is exactly what it's always gonna be.
Yeah. So it was cool. So they introduced the name, and I was like, it's cool that you think that this is gonna matter. Like no one's gonna care. Like I think I saw the
I also had to like listen to it. They're like, what the fuck did she say? What was his name? She's like, Grogu. I'm like, Grogu? What?
You see that Bart Simpson when he throws the cake, it says like at least thanks for trying or something like that, and he just throws the cake in the garbage. Yeah. That's what that's what his name was. Like, you tried. It's cool.
It's gonna be a thing. Like, listen. When next year's toy catalog comes out, because it's all about the Mandalorian this year, because I've gotten all these toy catalogs, it all say the child. If they still say the child next year, that shit didn't stand. Mm-hmm. If it's just the child and Mandalorian, then no. Grogu was just a thing to give him a little bit of backstory and to connect him to the Jedi Temple and what happened to Coruscant. Like that's literally.
And I find it so funny that she said that he was one of the children that was there, and I was like, oh shit, that would actually track because of his age. Because we see him as like this baby essentially, but he's 50. Like he's old enough that he would have been there. I'm maybe not plot hole wise, but like we understand like there's more Jedis after the events that happen, but like trying to figure out like what happened to him, like how like who just takes a kid and bounces like where'd he come from?
I just feel like there's a whole lot of this 50 years of of mystery that we need to that we eventually will untangle. I do think it's a bit of a cop out to be like he was there on Coruscant and survived Anakin Skywalker's genocide. I'm like Star Wars. Like you telling me we waited until 2019 to get a third species of Yoda, and Yaddle was given like no fucking chance to shine. I just think it was a bit of a cop out to be like he was there. Like in that specific instance, he could have been alive. That's fine.
You got to hit the Pepperidge Farm. He remembers. when he remembers when Anakin slaughtered the younglings.
Pepperidge Farms remembers. I just think that aspect of it, of him being there in the temple on Coruscant during Order 66, is a bit of a cop out, unless like there's like they decide to give us 50 years of history of how he went from Coruscant to wherever the hell he was last year.
What do you feel about that, Cheyenne? Him surviving Anakin Skywalker's babysitting and his name being Grogu.
I already said bold of them to assume that they're going to have Grogu stick. So that was the first thought that came to mind. Bold of you to assume. I said, watch. I have to keep saying Grogu to remember, but I'm just going to be like, that's Baby Yoda. I'm sorry. I've been whipped into shape to call this child Baby Yoda. That's it. So, yeah. For the fact that, because they already talked about, I'm already about to say it, Baby Yoda, Grogu, trying. That he's been around for 50 years. So you're saying Clone Wars, Anakin's babysitting, the infamous babysitting. Just have like that moment of silence. He's a kid killer. And then it's kind of like, okay, Ahsoka already talked about how there were memories that were blank. Like it was just black for a certain period of time. I feel like it's a cop-out because it's like, okay, we want to know what he saw, what this little child saw in between those events, because that's 50 years. Ahsoka was around, technically. She was around when all the stuff that was conspiring for the most part, even though she may not have been physically there. It's just still location and timeline. It's like, okay, so what was going on prior, during, especially after? Especially the key point is after, because there's so many holes, so many questions. And are we going to get that once they go to the Jedi Temple? And that's just that big question. Are we going to get that?
Well, there's a lot of... Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, with my gut feeling, because I'm a little bit of a pessimist in some cases, I'm at a question mark, because I feel like they're going to probably drag it out to bring up the story, or they might just say, he just doesn't remember. He has amnesia. He's not going to say anything. He's not receptive. I don't know.
I feel like there's a bigger plan when it comes to it, because especially with the reveal of who Ahsoka Tano was looking for, which was General Admiral Thrawn. And I feel with them mentioning that the child has years that he doesn't remember, Grogu, I feel like it's going to lend more to the story, because I feel like we got a lot of intertwining stories, because first of all, we have what's her face, the leader of the Mandalorians, who's looking for the black saber.
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
We have now Ahsoka Tano, who also was with Bo-Katan before in Rebels and Clone Wars. They fought side by side together. Thrawn, who was a major villain in that series, who I think is probably
you said it perfectly. Like you said, like they have all these like connecting storylines and like these merging storylines, but then Cheyenne also brought up the good point where like there are storylines that like get half finished. Like you're so close. You just need to do this, and they're just like, nah, we're gonna leave it open ended, and it's just like,
No.
then why invest the time? Why invest the time in doing it?
I don't think that they're either making it open. They're either setting up for either one, see how fans react to it. Are we going to make this as a spin-off property to get people interested of like, okay, this child is pretty powerful. He survived Anakin's babysitting, but who erased his memories? And also
even going back to Rebels, it would be like answering a question with another question.
But that's the thing. I think what they're doing is that they're just trying to build this whole bigger story because Mando, let's be honest, is kind of holding the Star Wars universe on its back right now. We also have the introduction of Bad Batch and the Boba Fett series that's supposed to come out. And then we can't forget the simple fact, and yes, I will put this up here. Hold on, and it is not working on my mouse. Thank you. Yeah, spin-off galore. I really think they're trying to set up a lot with the whole thing here. But it's like the question is, who's going to answer the call when he brings Grogu to the temple? What Jedi? And there's already been theories of what Jedis may answer the call. There's one from the Knights of Republic games because you can see they're pulling stuff from games too that have come out. So there's like all this stuff that's going on right now with Mandalorian. And so it's like, where are they going with this season? I mean, we have 3 episodes left for the season.
And I don't really think we're gonna get any sort of closure. And I think like spin-off galore is a bit. I don't know if they're really gonna do that. I think they're just kind of gonna use the Mandalorian as like this focal point of converging a lot of these characters that didn't get a lot of major screen time and bringing them up into like the live action, universe and kind of just doing something with them. Because we know we're going to get another set of two more seasons at least of Mandalorian. Like I don't see us doing like a spinoff of, of Thrawn or a spinoff of Ahsoka or like some of these folks are just not going to do them. And like or I think just using the Mandalorian as your main character, keeping him with the child to kind of bring everything together, to have that reason why everyone's coming after the Mandalorian is the child, and then just kind of bringing everyone else along. Like I won't be surprised next season or 2 they get Ezra in this thing. Like we're eventually probably going to see Ezra, or that's the Jedi that's at the temple. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ezra sometime down the line within this live action universe.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, because when you mentioned Thrawn, if you remember what happened with Rebels, he was the one that pretty much disappeared with Thrawn on that ship. So the fact that they went into space with, kind of like that tentacles all over the place, kind of just, they don't really confirm that he died. So, and that's just that thing. It's just like,
listen, the fact that
is he gone?
Once we got Palpatine coming back in episode 9, all bets were off. I don't believe anybody's fucking dead anymore. I don't give two. Wait, what? Get out of here.
Oh yeah, no, we know definitely Obi-Wan is coming.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, it starts with Obi-Wan saving him.
But to be fair, like it's like, like Palpatine was alive, Boba Fett's back, like all bets are off.
Death means nothing in Star Wars.
Death means absolutely nothing.
But no,
it just means you're on the shelf for like 5 years.
But I like this question. What if it starts with Obi-Wan saving him? Do you mean by Grogu? Because I think that will be a tough start because he wasn't there when the younglings were being killed. Yeah. It would have to be a totally different Jedi or someone who was there to set them up, because we know Ahsoka was pre-warned by Maul of Order 66. That's why she went into hiding. What other Jedis through this universe had survived? I don't think it would be Obi-Wan. I think it would be a different Jedi setup.
It's probably going to be someone we never heard of, because that's just too big of a thing.
Well, like they said, there was a what was it? The Jedi I was trying to refer to, who they did the game, the Knights of the Old Republic or something, like was one of the recent Star Wars games.
Fallen Order.
Yeah, Fallen Order. He went into hiding. He was hiding his powers, and they said he was one of those who survived from it. So I mean, they're saying that this could be the person that's actually might have helped save Grogu. We don't know. He could possibly be the one who's going to answer the call. We won't know until like the next episode. But I want to get into the Beskar spear, which is
before we go, Cheyenne. I don't know if you're trying to chime in.
I had a weird thought bubble. So, and the thing is, my dad is into Star Wars also, and he and I tend to talk about this stuff. So he was thinking, well, there's a possibility that Mace Windu might pop up, only due to the fact that Boba Fett's in there. He's the one that killed his father, and you can't you would just have that moment of you already know that he got blasted out of the window with one, with his hand cut off, and was a Revenge of the Sith. Jedis often tend to survive from extremely high heights. They tend to survive. And there's really not much said. So there's a high possibility that he might be, I don't know, old, but a doozy that he might appear at the Jedi Temple.
I would be here for it. Because
they're even rumoring him to be Snoke in the sequel because of his powers being so closely. Like he's like a sneeze from being one of the darker Jedis, Windu.
Yes. But I just think like if they did that for Windu, and I would love to see Samuel Jackson, especially like a jaded, old, rugged Samuel Jackson.
God, I'm here for it.
Like
stuff I didn't know I needed.
Use the Force, motherfucker. Like that's what you want.
I'm here for it.
But yeah, I mean the one of the things, and I have a soft spot for episode 3. It's one of my favorites out of the prequel trilogy. Is that like Mace Windu is touted as like one of the best fighters of the Jedi Masters, and then for him to just be put out, like just struck with lightning and just washed, was like, yo,
so
serious.
He's literally like one of the most powerful Jedi, and he doesn't take on apprentices because like his power is that great. It would change most like people.
Yeah, like there are certain things like there's a reason why like Obi-Wan was able to beat Grievous the way he did, even though the fight still sucked. It's because Obi-Wan is the best defensive duelist. Like they say that hands down, he's the best one, and that's why he was also able to kick Anakin's ass because he had the high ground.
But like you guys raised a good point because I was gonna say before Cheyenne, like I don't see an apprentice or like not a fully fledged master Jedi taking the child as like their apprentice. Like it just doesn't seem, like something that would work. And then when you mentioned Mace Windu, I was like, oh shit, like if the kid has some sense of that side that can lead to the dark side and all this other shit that Ahsoka was saying, it could very well be Mace. Like Mace would be a good fit for that narrative like point of just like, yeah, like you use that side of the Force for the power that it wields without letting it take over you.
And we know Disney loves Samuel Jackson. He did a bunch of stuff for them at Marvel, so I wouldn't be surprised. We'll sign you onto another hit. They're going to cut him the check.
And the next set of Marvel movies are all just prequels or set in a situation where we're not going to see Fury Nicholas J.
Mace Fury. That's what we're going to get.
I would be here for it if they did bring him back.
That's actually a really like I never considered that until you two brought it up, and now I'm like,
yeah.
Considering like 5 minutes ago, we literally just said like nobody in Star Wars really dies. That's actually.
I would
brilliant.
say I just think it's hard for them, not to have the Mando with Baby Yoda. So it would be one of those things of like maybe is Mace a reoccurring character or something. Like I just don't see them like him leaving Baby Yoda to fucking train. And we follow the Mandalorian.
Hey, what's going on, D?
So I would say that's it. I mean, I want to see like a training montage because everyone's always up for a training montage with some 80s music. Like ready to go. Apollo Creed is there. This is true. They do become part of the Force. Rey did hear all of their voices when she rose.
So
up.
Wait. Well, because this does take place before the prequels.
Before
the sequels. You know what I mean? Yes. It takes place before that.
Yes.
So there is enough time that Mace, Ahsoka, all these characters can pop up and then somehow miraculously die because of the First Order or whatever the case.
We know
is.
Ahsoka dies because we hear her voice.
Right, but we hear Mace too, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was in.
So like,
yeah,
it's a possibility. My other thing too is like, yes, the child is force sensitive. Like, what is their significance to the greater story of Jedi, aside from the fact that he's force sensitive?
I think they're trying to build a whole different thing for the Jedi, a whole different path that doesn't tie into the current to the last trilogy we had, because I think they're trying to open up a different path, different universe.
I get it, and I'm totally like, I'm here for it, but I'm like, to what end does it like serve any like narrative purpose? Because we have essentially Luke's, training school kind of thing. We have talks of where Leia is now learning how to use the Force, the whole shebang. But anything between episode 6 and about now, like what, like where does that go? Where does what do you do with that story piece of like, we're going to introduce Jedis that don't really have any real bearing on story?
But that's the thing. I think what they're trying to do is get away from the whole Skywalker trilogy, the whole Skywalker thing. Because if you notice, most of the movies have only dealt with the Skywalkers. The show really mostly deal outside the Skywalker. So I think they're trying to set up where we could literally do more Star Wars, like maybe movies and everything, but just away from the Skywalkers. No, I haven't played Fallen Order. Have any of you played Fallen Order?
I just started.
I know they've referenced
because it's on Game Pass.
Oh, right.
So I just started. Yeah,
I was going to because it was on Game Pass, but like someone equated it to Dark Souls, and I was like, I'm not here for that kind of punishment.
You know what? It is. It's
nope.
So quick aside. It does, but it's not as bad as Dark Souls. So it does the thing where if you fight something and it kills you, you lose like all of your experience and shit. However, if you go and you hit the thing, you get your experience back. And if it kills you continuously, you won't like lose it forever. Where Dark Souls is like, or at least Bloodborne, when I played Bloodborne, was if you have all your souls, you get killed by some random ass dude because that's how that shit is. And then you don't get it back. If you die again, you lose it forever. With Fallen Order, it sticks to it. I mean, I'm playing on the second to hardest difficulty and it's still doing that. So it's there, but I'm digging it. It's cool.
Well,
I was fighting this frog thing and it was fucking my life up.
You have to have a certain level of like, I don't care about my feelings. I don't like.
I played Ninja Gaiden, and so Ninja Gaiden kind of got me ready for that, but I can't do the Dark Souls because it's just too frustrating.
I know people who like play Dark Souls. They've played multiple times with Dark Souls. I know we're getting to a brief tangent, and I'm like, at what point did you just wake up one morning and go, you know what? I don't really care about myself enough.
No,
anymore.
You know what it is? What it is? The thing about Dark Souls and about those games too is that it's all pattern based. So like you get to a point where like the pattern and you can just fuck up that enemy's life.
Right.
Because you know the pattern.
Oh, we know those games.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, have you played?
I can, as his roommate, I can 100% confirm this.
Absolutely.
Cheyenne, have you played Fallen Order?
No, that's actually one on my list. I was actually thinking about, I don't know if you guys remember the game, but it was a Star Wars game that came out like a decade ago called The Force Unleashed.
Yes.
I was thinking about
we're bringing this up.
Yeah, Dark Souls makes me become another person. I dissociate when I play that game. So
you have to dissociate. The minute you emotionally invest while playing Dark Souls, everything's getting broken. Like you're destroying your console, you're destroying the TV, you're destroying the controller. It's just a bad time all around. Unless you are like just emotionally numb, then maybe.
So listen, before we do just really one thing about the Force Unleashed. I don't know if you guys remember it. The best part in that movie and that game is the first thing you do in Force Unleashed 1 when you play as Vader and you go to Kashyyyk and you just fucking yeet all the Wookiees. And it's amazing. Best part. I don't really care about the apprentice. I don't really care. But if I can get a game where I'm Vader and I'm yeeting things, I'm here for it.
I would love to see if they keep or they bring back the Apprentice, and that's why they bring back these other Jedi. Like bring back Starkiller, bring back Starkiller, and bring back this like rogue faction group of Jedi that aren't associated with Luke.
Well, that's what they're doing is this is like because I noticed like in the episode with Gideon Moff, the last episode, that we saw the Dark Troopers. That was in a game, and that was pretty dope that we got to see that. So it looks like they are bringing a lot of stuff in the games. That's why there's these rumors. They're pulling stuff from games. But I want to talk about this Beskar spear before we run out of time and how it's already setting up for the showdown with Mando and Darth and Gideon Moff, Moff Gideon, since he has the dark saber, and we already saw that the Beskar spear was used against Ahsoka Tano, who was able to deal against the saber. So, how do you feel about him now getting this spear?
I mean, I think it's cool because it's all just like foreshadowing of what the Beskar steel can do. Yeah. You know, when you're falling through the skies of your home planet, you know, shit's gonna happen. Shit gets real. Anyway,
like Toad is such a loving person, but he comes a whole new person when he plays certain games, and he's just like, fuck these characters.
But go ahead, so on the Beskar spear.
No, it's just foreshadowing. That's all I would say it is. You know, I mean, it'll be interesting to see when he actually fights Moff Gideon. I know we're not getting Moff Gideon too much until like seasons 3 and 4, according to Giancarlo Esposito. But he's got the spear, and we're going to see some really cool fighting, and I'm here for it.
I think they're setting him up as the perfect big bad because, like, he's motivated. He's got the sword. Like, he has everything that people want, and he's just the guy. Like, you're like, you have to get to that guy. How the hell am I going to get to that guy? And he's just there like, yo, go ahead. He wants all the smoke. He's the equivalent of Cell. He's the equivalent of Cell setting up the entire arena and giving them days to train and go, I'll be here.
It's just
you tell me when you want to catch a spade.
He just plays various different versions of Gus Fring in different universes. That is all he does. It's Gus Fring as a fucking Sith commander.
But are you mad at it though?
Absolutely not. Gus Fring is one of the best TV villains of all time, and I will take it any way, shape, or form.
Like, how did you feel about wrong?
Cheyenne, weigh in on the spear.
Honestly, I definitely agree with Tone on this one because of the fact that I saw it as a foreshadowing. And if you're going to a Jedi temple, you're most likely going to run into some form of Jedi, whether it's a Jedi Inquisitor, something in the middle or in between. Because one doesn't just give that to you and then you just don't do anything with it until you see Moff Gideon. Because it's like, okay, you have it, so what the hell you're doing with it for this whole long time frame? So I definitely see it as a foreshadowing event and then him having to use it sooner than later. So obviously it might be used before you have that encounter with Gideon again.
Do you see him fighting what's her name? Why can't I think of her name? The chick who wants the dark saber.
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan.
I
don't. It's not one of those things where like it'd be a cool fight if that happened, but it's one of those things where like, what if they set it up in a way where like he's starting to realize like things on both sides because he is, he was raised by these high acolyte kind of Mandos, and she was raised differently in this and third, and he's seeing her like the path she's taking, and he's just like, I gotta put this. He's like, I respect her, but I gotta put a stop to this. And I feel like they're gonna bump heads.
They're gonna probably bump heads, but I see him taking the darksaber, being the one. I see him being the one taking the darksaber, but I feel like he's going to see her as the uniter of his people, and he's going to give her the darksaber because he's just shown that he's this honorable character. in the series. Like, even though it's like, it is the way, and then he's learning more about his people, and as we get into his past and everything, like, some people speculate this might lead into a whole thing with him being able to take off his helmet or not, who knows. But I see him, like, seeing her, because she doesn't come off as someone who's going to really, like, they'll butt heads, but their ideals are the same. And her ideal is uniting her people regardless, of their faith. And I think he's going to be for that. And like, here's the Darksaber, unite our people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but I definitely do see some conflict in between those two, especially within that moment when the Darksaber is found, or at least Bo-Katan ends up meeting Moff Gideon. And obviously you're going to have Mando somehow within this whole, it's going to be like a little dramatic mix between those parties of who's going to get this, basically who's going to get the sword. Are you going to use this with good intentions? What is your true intentions?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when you're in situations, when your back is pressed up against the corner, and he was questioning her terms when they were dealing with the cargo ship, when she said, we're just going to deal with the cargo. And then all of a sudden she says, no, we're going to go for the ship. So he said, this was not the conditions. Why are you changing those conditions? So I can honestly see that being one of those, a repeat of that moment when they were in that cargo area, trying to get into the front of the ship. So I can see that possibly being a thing in the future.
100%.
So do you guys think we're going to get Admiral Thrawn anytime this season or next season, since his name has been thrown out there?
We may get like his name and maybe like a glimpse side profile of him kind of thing, but like seeing him, not this season.
No.
Like, this was like them throwing out the name just for us to go, oh, like, did they really just say that? Like, oh, okay, But I don't see it as a like them gonna do it right now. They're playing it. They're playing the long game, and they're doing it. Like, I will give it to them. They're playing it smart. Because, like, think about it this way. Like, when we said, they threw out Ahsoka's name, and I was like, yo, they're not going to show her for 2 or 3 episodes. And 2 or 3 episodes later, they show her. Like, they're not going to rush something like this.
Yeah, I agree with Law on this one. I think what will end up happening is you might hear probably his voice. You might have a silhouette, maybe a side profile, but you're not going to get exactly his face. Or you might hear him, like, bark an order or something, but you wouldn't see something so crucial as who is playing him. What does he look like now from obviously what we saw was Rebels and the animation adaptation versus, live action. So I definitely see season 3.
Yeah, I think he's too big of a character not to have a big casting for. Like, that's just, like we knew, like when they were terrible at hiding that Rosario Dawson is going to be Ahsoka Tano. I would say having someone casted as Thrawn, that's going to be big news for season 3. If he comes in, if they cast him, if they cast Ezra, all these characters, like, because they're just like, Thrawn himself is such an iconic character from Legends. From back in the from the 90s when his first set of books came out, and then bringing him into the forefront with Rebels, and then the new trilogy of books that was created for him. Yeah, he's too big of a deal until we're gonna get a big name. That'll probably be the big casting for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we go, because we got 2 minutes left, I just wanted to ask you guys: have you seen the fan art of people like wishing for Sebastian Stan to be casted as a young Luke Skywalker?
I have seen that.
I was mind blown.
I'm here
saw
for it.
my glasses and I said, "Holy, wait a minute." I had that, like, I got to put my glasses on.
That's actually been something that's been circulating like since like early Tumblr, because it was one of those things where like they showed a young version of him of Mark Hamill, and then they showed like about the same age version of Sebastian Stan, and it was like
creepy.
What? Like, and then it stuck. So like now I'm guessing they're throwing out more fan art to like kind of push and see if that can happen. Though, like we said, like it's not going to be something where I feel like they're really going to double down on doing any more of the Skywalker.
Yeah, I think we're done with the Skywalker trilogy. It's let them rest.
I think let them rest. I think there's too much I wouldn't say pressure. I would say just criticism. For someone else to play Luke Skywalker, we already had the other dude who played Han Solo. Like, I think it'll just take away from it. If we want to do more Luke Skywalker stories, we've got books that we can talk about and flesh out what Luke Skywalker did between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens and how he starts up the New Order. I just think it'll just do him a disservice. People will just do nothing but compare him to Mark Hamill and be like, stick to being Bucky or some bullshit like that. Like, like if he wants to be in Star Wars, cool. Maybe, there's actually a character who I could see him being in Star Wars. Hold up, I'll tell you right now.
I will say, if they do use Star Killer, I will say that the voice actor Sam Whittle, is that his name?
Damn, I don't even remember the voice actor's name. That's how long ago it's been.
Sam Whitworth.
Okay.
Yeah, man. They need to use him. They need to use him.
Like, honestly, like, there's a character, if you look up, and this is in Knights of the Old Republic, if they decided to do that era, which I really want them to do, look up Karth Onassi, and I feel like Sebastian Stan could play him.
Okay. So as we're at that hour, Cheyenne, tell us beautiful viewers where they can find you and what you do. Come on.
So you can find me on my Facebook page, Cheyenne Clardy, or since I am one of the co-con chairs for Geek Out in Staten Island, you can easily find us on Instagram, Facebook, and I believe Twitter. Should use Twitter more often. So since I am one of the co-con chairs, we are literally in the process of trying to figure out our new game plan for GoSeeCon 2021. So just stay tuned for those updates right on that page. And we're actually going to be doing a geek trivia on December 19th. So we're actually going to be doing that on that Saturday, probably because I created the trivias. It's going to be a doozy because I threw just about everything in there.
Also, too, guys, quick announcement. So don't forget, this Friday we have a new episode being launched on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. You'll get to see Cheyenne and members of the Geeks Out Staten Island Go See, which will include Naja. We'll get to see Mike and Dave, everybody who's worked with Go Side behind the scenes. They put together a great con this year, both outside and virtually. So you'll get to learn more about them this Friday's episode. Also, too, don't forget to check the podcast, The Art of Storytelling, which our buddy here, Law, aka TAOS by Law, launched. Great interview that he put out there with us. First off, shout out to what's up, Enrique? Make sure you go to YouTube too. We got to cover Enrique. That episode is live on YouTube.
Just dropped last Friday. Yep.
And finally, this Saturday and every Saturday, make sure you're checking out the D&D podcast for the Medusa's Cascade. You can check out awesome fan
Follow us on Twitch. Follow me on Twitch and follow us on Twitch.
Well, you guys know, like, subscribe, share with us, with your friends, your family. This has been another great coverage of The Mandalorian. My name is Sebastian.
My name is Law.
And your boy Tone from across the hall. You guys didn't catch it this time.
Yo, don't lie. I said it and I was just like, oh God.
And we did it. And good night, guys. We out.
Thanks.